Welcome into another episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I am Will Thomas, Week 13 preview coming at you today. If you have been enjoying the previews, the recaps, all of the coaching carousel stuff that I've been trying to be on top of, please drop a like, please subscribe, because this is so fun for me to do, and the support that I've already gotten has been incredible, and I hope that everyone who watches this wants to stick around with me for the long term, because I hope to be doing this for a while. But this week in the SEC, a lot of cupcake games, right? This is kind of just the easy week heading into rivalry week. But we do have some games still that will have playoff implications and some that will be pretty close. So let's just breeze through the cupcakes super quick and then get on to the good stuff. Samford goes to Texas A&M. There is no spread on this game at this point, which is good because the number would be very offensive to everybody. In A&M, they survived their sleepy spot scare last week against Carolina, being down by 27. I guess it's more than just a sleepy spot scare. So even though this week they're playing against a 1-10 Samford team, that won't happen again, because of how bad Samford is, and also just they will have learned their lesson. Elko will have his guys ready, but really just in this game, just stay healthy and get to Saturday when you go to Austin. Next one is Charlotte at Georgia. Georgia has now played themselves into a potential first-round bye without even going to Atlanta. Now, there's a lot of conversation around that. We don't need to get into that right now, but Georgia's in a great spot. They're a playoff lock at this point, I would say, because they'll beat Charlotte, and no matter what happens against Georgia Tech, they should be good. So you have 1-9 Charlotte in town. You're 43.5-point favorites. Once again, just stay healthy and get ready to play the Yellow Jackets in Atlanta next week. Eastern Illinois at Alabama. This is just a Bama bounce back after their loss to Oklahoma. Stay healthy for Auburn because Bama is now in a back against the wall spot to make the playoff. They already have 2 losses, so they can't drop another game. I'm not worried about this one, but Auburn can be pretty scary, so you have to stay healthy. Make sure you have all your playmakers on both sides of the ball ready to go for that game in Jordan-Hare. Speaking of Auburn, they host Mercer this week, and they're going to be really excited about the idea of killing Bama next week, right, and taking away their playoff hopes, being able to get bowl eligible. But you have to stay focused because Mercer is 9-1 and Auburn sucks. So I'm not predicting an upset at all. This game shouldn't be that close. But Mercer isn't like these 2-3 win teams that some teams are playing. They're a solid squad. So Auburn will have to be ready and at least come out in the first half once they knock Mercer out. So they handle business, and then you get to the Iron Bowl to try and become bowl eligible and knock Bama out of the playoff. Western Kentucky goes to LSU. LSU is laying 23.5 in this spot. Garrett Nussmeier is once again doubtful to play for LSU. I think he's just done. I think he's quit both mentally and physically on this team. But I do really like the idea of Michael Van Buren being the quarterback of that team. He played good against Arkansas. Frank Wilson, their interim, has the team playing with a lot of juice, a lot of fire. I like what they're doing a lot. So I think LSU will roll in this game against Western Kentucky, and then they get to go to Oklahoma next week to end their season with a chance to get their 8th win. Right? This was like a total nightmare for LSU this year because they had playoff hopes in the beginning of the year. Then they beat Clemson before we knew they were terrible. They had title hopes. Then they had to fire Brian Kelly. But you can still win 8 games and still look at the season as an overall not disaster, not success, but it won't be horrible. And then moving on now, Coastal Carolina at South Carolina. This one is tricky. So Carolina is laying 23.5 also, but how does South Carolina bounce back mentally after that total collapse last week? Because that would have been a season-defining win to get that win in College Station. Instead, it's just embarrassing. You had your coach, your team being uber confident going into the half, then you come out of the locker room like you don't know how to play football. Like, that is emotionally really damaging to a team who is now 3-7. And this Coastal Carolina team is coming in with a lot of guys on that team who South Carolina probably looked in the eye and told, you're not good enough. That fires a team up. I mean, it's still an in-state game, right? Coastal's in the Sun Belt. It is, I don't want to say in-state rivalry, but it's an in-state game. They're going to come in hot. They're going to really want this game, despite how bad Carolina has been. So could Carolina just be South Carolina be in a 1-game season mode with Clemson looming? Like, that's kind of all they have to look forward to, in my point. So I do think South Carolina will be able to win this game still, but it's not a game by any means. I think Coastal can keep this close. I think it'll be a pretty competitive game. So the Gamecocks and Beamer, they have to be alert for what this game could turn into if they just sleepwalk into it. Now we have 4 SEC on SEC games, so let's get into those now. Arkansas at Texas. Longhorns are laying 8.5. Now, the general consensus, and also my own consensus, is that Texas is not a playoff threat at this point with 3 losses and being ranked 17th. In that building, I promise you that they are still convinced that if they win out, they have a very compelling resume to make the playoff. So I'm not worried about any quit from them at all. Arkansas, on the other hand, maybe. Now, there is a very good chance that Arkansas does get up to go play a game in Austin. You have a chance for a landmark win and something that Bobby Petrino can really hang his hat on in terms of being the head coach for Arkansas next year. But Texas's defense is probably one of the few units in America really that I trust to be able to totally stifle Arkansas's offense. And the Hogs' defense is not good enough to keep up with Arch and all those weapons that Texas has out wide. So I'll say Texas wins this game by 2 or 3 scores. I think Arkansas will come out and compete for a little bit, but Texas will just kind of outclass them. And with their belief that they're still a playoff team, if they win this game and go beat A&M, they're not going to lay down, right? They're going to still be full force for all 60 minutes of this game. Tennessee goes to Florida this week. Tennessee is only laying 3.5. Do the Gators get up off the mat again after another loss? It was a tough loss in Oxford last week, but now they get to come home and play a Tennessee team who has not beaten them in Gainesville since I was 7 months old. And they should have a good enough effort in this spot, in my opinion, if you're Florida, because you're getting a sold-out Swamp. And Gator fans have a decent reason to be excited this week because you have Tennessee in town. There are some rumors floating around. I don't know if you've heard about a future head coach, maybe for the Gators. But how does Tennessee's passing game translate in the Swamp? Because Joey Aguilar's picks have been a problem all season. He threw 2 more against New Mexico State. Like, he has good games, he has good stat lines, but he puts the ball in danger a lot. And we saw Florida be able to pick off Trinidad Chambliss last week for only his 3rd of the year. I think the Gators have the playmakers on defense to force a mistake or 2, maybe even 3, from Joey Aguilar here. And offensively for Florida, they found some rhythm with the deep shots against Ole Miss. You had one to T.J. Abrams, you had one to J. Michael Sturdivant. If they can keep extending the ball downfield and not be afraid to commit to running the ball on early downs with Jaden Ball, because he can get you ahead of the sticks. He can make it 2nd, 3rd, and manageable where you don't put too much on Lagway. And for the love of God, please stop having Lagway roll to his left. Even if that's how the pocket collapses, you have to tell him, if you're the coaches, just throw the ball out of bounds. Because every time Lagway rolls left, it's a nightmare waiting to happen. That's how the, not I want to say game-ending, but game-changing pick happened against Ole Miss in the 4th quarter last week. You have to keep Lagway in the pocket or rolling right or use those design runs. Because he looks fast and quick on those designed runs, but in scramble drills, he's really struggling. So for Florida, I think the game plan is there. And I'm sort of at a point now because I can't remember it. I wasn't sentient when I was 7 months old. So there are 3 things left that are certain. It's death, sadly, taxes, annoyingly, and Tennessee losing games in Gainesville. So I think that the Gators will get their first win under Billy Gonzalez this week. And this could be a pretty good 10 days for Gator fans, but we'll see how that plays out. Kentucky goes to Vanderbilt. Vandy's laying 9.5 in this game, and they're kind of back against the wall too, are the Commodores, because they're outside looking at the playoff field right now. They have to win out if they want any chance at a playoff berth and probably get some help also. But they're hosting a Kentucky team that has suddenly won 3 straight games, albeit their last one was against Tennessee Tech, and it was Auburn and Florida. But Auburn and Florida are better rosters than they are, and they won both those games. And then they laid the hammer on a Tennessee Tech team who was 10-0 at the time, even though they're FCS. It is senior day for Diego Pavia. Now, is it his 4th senior day ever? Sure, but so what? Right? The Vandy fans are going to be out there in full force for a send-off for one of the best teams in Vanderbilt history. And I trust Vandy's physicality and ability to really exert their will on a lesser team in Kentucky. Now, the Wildcats turnaround, it's been a solid story. Right, Carter Bowley has been fun. They've looked really inspired these past 3 weeks. I think they draw this one in Nashville and Vandy stays alive. Give me the Commodores by 13 or 14 in this spot to keep their playoff hopes alive. And this is a quick one. This is a pretty quick preview episode this week, but Missouri at Oklahoma. Oklahoma is laying 7.5, and they're in the playoff, are the Sooners. If they just handled their business being ranked 8th, they get Missouri and LSU at home. But you can't suffer a letdown spot after the Alabama win. Because going to win a game in Tuscaloosa, I don't want to say you can get complacent, but that can sort of be in your head and sort of be some rat poison as you host a lesser team in Missouri. Because Ahmad Hardy will destroy you if he's given the chance. He went for 300 yards last week, but I do believe that Oklahoma's defense has the horses and their defense stacks up well enough to at least limit him. But for Missouri, is Bo Pribula going to find a way to play in this game? Because he was throwing the ball around with no boot on his leg last week. Obviously, wasn't threat to play. But it seems like there is an outside chance he can get in this game and be Missouri's quarterback. I would expect him to be doubtful on the injury report tonight. But if he finds a way in, Missouri having a pulse in the passing game makes it way more interesting. Now, do I think that Bo will be full force? No, because he's missed his time. He might not be totally 100% healthy. But Matt Zollers can't throw the ball. Right? Missouri has no semblance of an air attack. And if you're going to beat Oklahoma's defense, you need to exploit the holes in their secondary. If Pribula's in, they have a pathway to maybe do that every now and then. For Oklahoma offensively, their offense just keeps on doing barely enough to win, and they're very reliant on their defense. How long can that sustain itself? Because Missouri's defense is very good. So I'm not sure that Oklahoma's offense is going to be able to go up and down the field, punch it in 4 times in this spot. They're going to be defense reliant. Again, it's not an easy assignment at all for Oklahoma going against the Missouri defense. So if Zollers is the quarterback, I love Oklahoma. If Pribula is the quarterback, I like Oklahoma, but I'd be a little more hesitant to lay the points with them. I'm going to assume right now that it's Matt Zollers who plays quarterback for Missouri. So with that, give me Oklahoma by like 14, because I'm not sure that Missouri can break 17 with Zollers at quarterback. But if Pribula's in, it gets a little more interesting. My pick will be Oklahoma either way. I do think the Sooners go up to 9-2 and get to host LSU for a lock to the playoff. So that's it. Pretty quick preview episode this week. A lot of games that nobody really cares about, but a few that will be pretty consequential and some that could be pretty close. So I've been Will Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. If you like the video, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.